Alrighty, welcome to this week's show. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Hope you are having an absolutely wonderful day. On this week's show, we are going to talk about Wemby. We're going to talk about a red PMG, Terry Rozier. We're going to talk about my boy Luka Doncic, LeBron James, one of one, Kobe Bryant, huge sale. Today's basketball game involving the Heat and the Hornets, and we've got part 2 of our next prospects to pop. Starting off today, though, we are going to talk about the Charlotte Hornets game. I think that the buzz around this game was absolutely fantastic. The NBA has absolutely nailed this single elimination game type format. I think it's really bringing some eyeballs to the games, and that's exactly what we need, particularly when we've just been through an absolute tank fest that has been the last 10 or 12 games of the NBA season. So absolutely banging game today. I've only caught about half of the Hornets Heat game, so I need to watch the rest tonight, but it looked very, very good. It looked very, very competitive. And then, of course, everyone saw the highlight reel of LaMelo grabbing onto Bam's ankle. I personally think he should get either a retrospectively given flagrant 2 or he should get suspended for 1 game. That's my personal opinion. I'm not too sure they can actually retrospectively give somebody a flagrant 2, but honestly, he needs to be penalized for that in some capacity. He seemed to think it was like an accident thing. He also said that he hit his head, so maybe he should be put into the concussion protocol. They should sort of call his bluff on it. This post here is from Card Ladder. This is the black 1 of 1 fast break autograph there. PSA 10 on that too. And that sold in March 2026, right after he had that big 80 point or 83 point game, wasn't it? That sold for $11,050 versus this Concanapple gold refractor number to 50. I keep getting tricked up by that. Prism gold was to 10. Gold by Tops is numbered to 50. This is PSA 9. That's sold for $10,800. Look, if I had to pick between these two cards, this is actually a really tough one for me because I think both of these cards are really difficult purchases. I would probably go with the Knuckle, but only because I think you might be able to quick flip this into something else. I actually really love Bam. I've got some Bam in my own collection. I think he's one of those guys that's a little bit of a sad story in some ways where he's got fantastic talent, but just does not have the hobby love and support behind him. So bit of a unfortunate one for that. I actually think that's a really cheap price at $11,050 for a 1 of 1. Coming in next here today, we've got Kobe Bryant. Again, this is from our friends at Card Ladder. 2003 finest Kobe Bryant gold refractor number to 25 PSA 10. Sold for $183,000 on Goldens. Of note, there's actually a 1 of 1 pink Kobe Bryant. I think it's a Flair Showcase that's up for auction at the moment. I saw that on the Real Guys Instagram. I'm actually very interested to see where that 1 of 1 ends up. I think at the moment, Kobe is definitely going through a resurgence of popularity. And the feeling I've got at the moment is last year we did a Jordan at the end of every show. I feel like the next 12 months is going to be a Kobe Bryant at the end of every show where we're just seeing these huge Kobe Bryant sales, one after one. And I'm going to make this very rounded conversation piece about this, and not so much about this card, but my general thought or my general question is, and I want to talk to some Kobe Bryant collectors about this, is this the good time to be buying Kobe Bryant, or is this the time to be selling off your Kobe's? And is he going to dip back down, and are you going to be able to pick them up again for cheaper later on? I've got a really funny feeling that actually this is just the beginning, and he's going to be a very steady investment. I think the real problem is your return on investment is going to be a lot less if you're picking them up now. This card, for example, at 183,000, I think that's going to take a long time to actually get a return on this card. You might even take a short-term loss on it. And as a collector who deals in much lower end cards than this, where my brain is going to on this is, what about Kobe autographs? So whether they're low-graded BGS, low-graded PSA, even if they're raw cards in that sort of $1,000 to $2,000 mark, is that actually where you should be focusing your Kobe Bryant collecting? Because rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. This is not a black joke or anything like that, but he's not signing again. So I think that's something that, yeah, it's really on my mind at the moment. I would definitely like to talk with a big Kobe collector about this. We've actually got a question in today's chat. This is from Ross Berman. Will be interesting with Dame coming back next year, adding that extra spark to the youngsters' performances this year. Haven't checked Lillard's comps in a while, but could see an uptick, hopefully. Ross, I got to tell you, man, I actually hope he comes back to the Blazers and he has a fantastic year, but I hope he comes off the bench and I hope that Scoot starts. Like, you got to turn the keys over to these young kids. There's no point in not stretching it out, but Lillard's had his time. He's had his prime. It really is time to start looking at someone else to see what they can do. Let's in real time. Let's answer this question. Let's see what's going on with this guy. Alrighty, so this is the 2012 Prism Silver Rookie Lillard PSA 10. Going back on the 1 year of data, he is actually up 86%. So that is huge, and I would not have expected this. In May 2024, he was trading at $1,000 and it's just steadily risen up. The only small downtick he had was in February of 26 when it went from 1,677 down to 1,503. He is currently trading at 2,280. I got to tell you, that is an absolute surprise for me. I am genuinely shocked to see that. But if you're a Lillard fan and you're holding some of this guy, and Ross, I hope you are, congratulations, mate. That's a really fun one for you. Population on this is just 46. Let's, however, check the BGS population because some of these older cards were sent off to BGS a lot more frequently during that time. So total gems at BGS is 101, total population is 117, and total population at PSA is 78. So we're talking around the 200 mark here, which in today's terms is an absolute spit in the bucket when we've got 5,000 silver PSA 10 Wembys. So thank you, Ross, for that lovely question/comment. I appreciate you, man. Now, on to another froth fest here. We got LeBron James, 2025 Topps Chrome Refractor 1 of 1. Look, I'm not a fan of this photo at all. I would much prefer to see a live action shot of LeBron here. However, this is first year Topps Chrome, potentially the final year of LeBron's career. It's that, again, crossover between him leaving and Topps coming in. I love this card for so many reasons. I wouldn't say that I'm jealous of this card, but this is the type of card where I'm like, look, if I had a loose 305K, I would actually love to pick this up and put it into my collection. Whoever bought this, I think this is very shrewd. I'm going to throw this out as a prospective Wonder Shine purchase where it kind of makes sense that this would be a Wonder Shine card, or maybe even a Shine card. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful card. Congratulations to the buyer on that one there. This is a little bit of a personal one for me. My favorite set all time is 1819 Prism. It was just the set that really got me back into collecting and gave me that desire to start buying boxes in a pretty steady manner and trying to rip them, and not every box had an autograph in them. The boxes that did have autographs in them, though, were on-card autographs. Originally, this is before the huge slam that we had. You could go into the Panini website and just buy these. Look, if my memory serves me correct, they were for like 150 or 100 US dollars. Like it was ridiculous. Like that's the classic hindsight thing where you should have just bought the whole website out. Look at these cards though. They're just absolutely beautiful cards. I just think Mosaic Parallel for me is just a 10 out of 10. And obviously the black here is just absolutely beautiful. I'm assuming that this is an auction advertisement, so we're going to see this really soon. This is just 4 days ago, so keep an eye out on some auction results on that, and we'll try and report back to you too. Coming up next, again, this is a personal froth fest. This is the Aurora SSP from 1718 Court Kings. Obviously, this is my boy De'Aaron Fox. However, what I did want to say about this card is if you're looking for something that is an SSP that is relatively cheap, pretty easy to get your hands on, I would actually start having a look at these. I personally think that long term, these are going to do really well. You can pick them up. Look, I haven't done a lot of deep digging into comps, but the last time I picked up one of these cards, they were around $100 Aussie. So they are not expensive by any means. The population count on them is very low. If you're looking for an SSP/case hit, definitely go and check that out. Up next here from Shams on Instagram, we have got this lovely piece of news here. And I'm frankly glad this guy's gone. I think he's an absolute stain on the game. Terry Rozier has been waived today by the Miami Heat. I also kind of hope that he doesn't get paid out his contract. I think everything that this guy did with the gambling is just an absolute, it's just a disgrace. I think everything that's wrong with the NBA is pretty much what this guy did. I'm going to keep watching this because I really think actually this is like a case study into how that it should be handled or maybe even not handled. I personally think while the investigation was going on, they should have held his funds in an escrow or in a trust account, and he shouldn't have been paid. Like, just simple as that. It's just, you just don't need this in the NBA. All right, on to a good news story. Precious metal gem, Keith Van Horn, 1997. PSA 9 on this. So for these particular cards, look, these days we all want PSA 10. That's what everyone wants. That's what everyone chases. But if you get a PMG in a 5, 6, or 7, that can still sell for 5 figures. So don't disregard this as being a PSA 9. This is crazy high graded card. And actually, I'm surprised this sold for such a low value. So this sold for $41,000. Look, I'm going to put myself here on the rinse and repeat type news cycle on this. I really believe that kabooms are going to be the next PMGs. So when I see prices like this, it really makes me want to look up low-end PMGs, and then I can start seeing what I can pick up for myself at that lower end. And in fact, I'm going to see what's going on with some sales history. All righty, here we go. We have found some kabooms. I'm going to filter through these just a little bit quickly. Now, this one here, the Anthony Edwards that sold for $10, there ain't no way. So let's completely disregard that one here. 2018 Dennis Smith Jr., that sold for $18 at that particular time. It last sold for $71. 2014 Dwight Howard Excalibur, this last sold raw for $600. 2016 Excalibur Buddy Hield, last sold for $340. I got to tell you, I actually think anything that's in that $100 to $200 range, and you see them just lying around, you just buy them. Okay, Markel Fultz, 2018. That is a rookie card. That sold for $100. And actually, Card Letters rating that as overpriced. PSA 10 on the Fultz. Population 18. That last sold for $202. And that was 12 months ago. Yeah, look, honestly, I'm going to double down on this. When I see cards like this, what is going to be the next PMG in the making? I mean, who was Keith Van Horn? Like, he was a pretty good role player. He could shoot a little bit. He was nothing crazy. But at those prices, look at some of these old school prices here. $46 for a Paul George PSA 10. Alrighty, the Raw last sold for $600. And the PSA 10 actually hasn't sold. It hasn't traded since 2018. So if the Raw is at 600, that's got to be at least a $2,000 card. Alrighty, and our last card today before we go on and do our next prospect to pop is this one here. It is the 2023 Victor Wembanyama White Sparkle. It last sold for $50K. You can see that really nice spike there as he's heading into the playoffs well ahead of schedule. And I think there's a lot of excitement around Wemby at the moment, and frankly, rightfully so. It's a good time to be in the hobby at the moment where we've got good young prospects going into the playoffs with some really big upside. Again, this one is way out of my price range, but at the same time, if you're looking for something low pop, I absolutely think this is the play. Wemby numbered stuff, even if it's low graded, that's where you should be looking to invest into. Another one of Wemby's cards that's SSP. Population on this is just 10. The Tiger Stripe at PSA 10. That last sold for $51K. So if you're direct comping that, you got Pop 21 on this on the White Sparkle, but you got Pop 10. So if I'm looking at those two cards directly, to be honest, I think the Tiger Stripe is a much better buy. Maybe aesthetically, the White Sparkle is better to look at, and that's why the price went for such a different price considering the population, but I think the smart money is on this one here, the Tiger. Alrighty, guys. Into our next segment, which is going to be called Next Prospects to Pop. Now, last week, we did our first leg of this, and we did Nikhil Alexander-Walker, we did Eamon Thompson, Scotty Barnes, De'Aaron Fox, and Con Knuppel. This week, we're going to start off with, at number 9, Denny Ajava. And now, Denny, for me, has been one of the absolutely good news stories of this NBA season, averaging 24 points, 6.9 rebounds, and 6.7 assists, all on a very juicy 46% from the field. For me, I actually find this a little bit of annoying because he was at the Washington Wizards. All the Wizards had to do was hold on to him, and they would have had a fantastic prospect on their hands. But for some stupid reason, they pretty well gave him away for nothing. Completely, you got to give Portland their credit there on picking up a cheap young asset and someone that could bloom. I've always loved him because his motor is just outstanding. And at the very least, even if he's not a top 10 NBA player, he's going to give you effort and intensity every single night. And I personally love to see that. Looking at the last 12 months for this guy, he's only up 4%, which I'm actually very surprised about. The data on this guy is super difficult, guys. So this is all roll sales. There's no PSA 10s on this. He's not, unfortunately, on Card Ladder. Let's zoom in a little bit closer and see if we can get something a little bit more accurate. The last 6 months, he's up 36%. And he's currently trading at $20. Look, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10 for a purchase. I'm only taking this down from 9 or 9.5 for the fact that these are raws, and then you have to go to all the work and getting them sent off to PSA. If you were buying a silver PSA 10 and you're picking it up at $225, I am totally fine with that. $225, $212, $233. Then he didn't sell for a while, and then one sold for $229. So he's been very solidly in that $220, $230, $250 mark. I think if you're trading him at that point, I think that's totally fine. Probability he gets up to 1K, though, honestly, is a little bit low. And once we go into the next couple of weeks of this segment, I think we're going to see more. I still love this guy. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Also coming in at number 9, I am absolutely cheating here, is Jalen Johnson. He's been my other honey for the last 12 months in terms of a prospect. He's currently averaging 22 points, 10 rebounds, so averaging a nice double-double there, 7.9 assists per game. I think that is an insane stat for someone like Jalen Johnson, particularly when he first came into the league. He just wasn't known as a playmaker. I think he had a fantastic engine and he was a great athlete, but his game has evolved in a really amazing way this year. 1.2 steals and 0.4 blocks per game. Just the 5th year in the league at 24 years old. I've also comped his body to LeBron James's body. I think he's an absolute machine, this guy. Now let's check out some of his sales. Last sold for $458. I would never have seen this coming, despite me being an absolute believer. For me, this is absolutely crazy. 445, 500, and 468 are his last 4 sales on his silver PSA 10. I'm going to give this one a 6.8 out of 10. Personally, I would have preferred to see them being picked up at that sort of 200 to 250 mark. If you're holding him already, congratulations. The real question is can he get to $1,000? I think that's going to be really tough, but at the same time, I think he could get to 800, maybe 850 in the next 12 to 24 months. That's Jalen Johnson. Coming in at number 8, we've got Alperen Şengün. I personally love this guy a lot. I love watching his game. It's like watching a Timu Nikola Jokic. He's a competitor. He's more athletic than what you give him credit for. And I think in the next 1 to 2 years after Kevin Durant leaves, he's going to actually have a lot more responsibility on the offensive end. His sale prices to me are still very, very reasonable. Last silver PSA 10 sales, $141, $140, $133. I'm actually going to give this a higher rating than Jalen Johnson just for the price and prospecting part. I'm going to actually give this like a 7.5 out of 10. I think this guy's a really good buy at the moment. The chances that he gets to $1,000, though, I'm going to give that less than what I gave it to Jalen Johnson. I think he's about a 5 out of 10 mark. The only way I think he gets to more than $1,000 is if he wins an MVP, maybe even 2 MVPs. That's the type of thing that he needs to do to really spike up there. I think that's a tough one. Now, at number 7, this is probably the one that I'm most excited to talk to you guys about. We have got LaMelo Ball. Now, let's just zoom out and look at his all-time data because I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned from LaMelo Ball. When he first hit the market, he was trading at $6,500, and that's what I would call rookie hype. In that particular year, he was holding the hobby together. So there's also hype and there's also the amount of hype that this guy had, and he was huge. So there's LaMelo Ball hype and there's regular hype, and this kid had it. The next thing to learn from this guy is look at this here, this really steep downhill over the next 12 months, all the way down to $850. And that is the post-rookie hype come down. And there it is right there, right in front of your eyes. Then for the next couple of years, this guy was solid, absolutely solid. Once he got down to that sort of $400 mark, he's been a little bit up, he's been a little bit down, but then he was trading in that sort of $300 mark in 2024. And that's totally fine. And that's actually appropriate. Exciting player. His team was absolutely terrible. Who knows if they were trying to win or not. But now let's go to the next 12 months because this to me is really exciting. In May 2025, he was trading at $350. He went all the way up to $394. Let's call it $400. Again, up and down, spiked back up again to $340. Overall growth in the last 12 months has been 15%. So that's fantastic. That's what you want to see. You don't want to see, any spikes too crazy. Now, let's zoom into the last 6 months. He is up 26%. You could have picked him up, though. This is the crazy thing. In January of this year, you could have picked him up for $144. He is currently trading at nearly $400. So I love this because I love to see a rebound back. I think I'm going to give this a really high rating, actually, because I like this one at about 8 out of 10, just because there's volatility there. There's high volumes of these cards being out and around and traded. I think people are going to be holding on to them because they bought them for much higher, and they'll be looking for the right opportunity to sell them off. So I think there's going to be liquidity in this guy. And I also think, too, there's some long-term hold potential in this guy, too, because I think he's the type of guy that could explode for some reason. Maybe he gets the assist title. Maybe they somehow get to the Eastern Conference Finals or the NBA Finals. And I think with all that previous excitement and all the things I just spoke about rolled into one, he's the type of guy that could go absolutely crazy. And the reason why I put him at number 7 is because I think he's got the highest potential to go to $1,000. And it's fantastic to see a bit more excitement going back into this guy. I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10 to go to $1,000 at some point. That's the end of today's show, guys. Thank you, everybody who did tune in. Thank you to Ross for the lovely question in the comments. Take care of yourselves, and I'll catch you for the next show. Bye-bye for now.